migration completed does not always mean transformation complete. In this section, we'll look at what comes next: safely reducing Active Directory dependencies, strengthening cloud-first identity patterns, and making the right decisions before final design and implementation begin. At this point, you've built the full migration storyline: how AD works, how Entra ID changes the architecture, how hybrid identity connects both worlds, and how devices, apps, and users move forward. Now the focus shifts to maturity, making the environment more secure, observable, operationally ready, and prepared for the capstone design exercise. The trap is that a migration can look complete, while Active Directory still quietly runs the business. Old apps, policies, service accounts, and LDAP ties can keep risk and cost alive. Optimization is where we expose those dependencies and turn migration into real modernization. Dependency reduction starts with knowing exactly what still relies on Active Directory. Capture applications, servers, devices, users, groups, GPOs, service accounts, and file shares. For each item, record how it authenticates, such as Kerberos, NTLM, LDAP, LDAPs, or Radius. Then connect it to a business owner, a technical owner, its criticality, and its migration readiness. This turns discovery into action. The inventory should show risk, cloud alternatives, and current status, and it should be updated as systems change. Treat it as an operational control, not a one-time spreadsheet. Applications often become the biggest constraint because they carry hidden assumptions about domain join, LDAP, Kerberos, NTLM, or hard-coded service accounts. Classify each app as cloud-ready, hybrid-dependent, legacy-bound, or ready to retire. Then inspect how users and services authenticate. If the app supports SAML or OIDC, Entra ID SSO may be straightforward. If it depends on Windows integrated authentication or delegation, app proxy or modernization may be needed. Prioritize legacy apps by business criticality and security exposure, so effort targets the riskiest blockers first. Device migration starts with understanding how each endpoint is connected today. Some machines may still be fully AD joined, some hybrid joined, some Entra joined, and some unmanaged. For each group, identify what still requires domain controller line of sight: group policy, logon scripts, mapped drives, certificates, or line of business apps. Where possible, replace those controls with Intune configuration profiles, compliance policies, and scripts. Track the remaining blockers by department, location, role, and business function, so migration waves are based on evidence rather than assumptions. Group policy cleanup begins with discovery, not direct migration. Inventory every GPO and categorize its purpose: security baseline, device configuration, user experience, software deployment, scripts, or drive mappings. Next, decide the modern landing place. Some settings map cleanly to Intune, security baselines, or endpoint security. Others may need PowerShell remediation or redesign, especially logon scripts and mapped drives. Retire policies tied to old operating systems or outdated processes. Most importantly, validate results on pilot Entra joined devices before broad rollout, so you confirm outcomes, not just settings. Service accounts are often the hidden glue keeping legacy systems running. Picture a reporting application that uses a domain user account for database access, scheduled tasks, and file shares. If that password never rotates, the account allows interactive logon, or it belongs to privileged groups. It becomes both a dependency and an attack path. Start by discovering where the account is used. Then review permissions, password age, and actual logons. Where possible, replace it with a GMSA, managed identity, workload identity, or app registration. Before disabling anything, monitor usage and validate that the service still works. Authentication logs are where hidden dependencies usually surface. An inventory may say an application is retired, while domain controllers still show LDAP binds, Kerberos tickets, NTLM authentications, or failed logons from it. For each event, capture the source system, target domain controller, account used, and likely application owner. Give extra attention to NTLM and unsigned LDAP because they increase risk and often point to older integrations. As changes are made, trend the counts over time. A steady decline proves dependencies are actually being removed. File services are often one of the most entangled parts of an AD environment. Shares may rely on NTFS permissions, DFS paths, mapped drives, logon scripts, and legacy groups that have not been reviewed in years. Begin with a full inventory: servers, shares, owners, access lists, and real usage. Then choose the right destination. Collaborative content may move to Teams or SharePoint. Personal data fits OneDrive. Workloads needing SMB or application compatibility may require Azure files or a retained server. As you migrate, redesign access around governance while preserving permissions, retention, compliance, and user experience. Ad minimization is not a purity test, and it should not be driven by a calendar. If critical applications, legacy protocols, or server workloads still depend on domain services, keeping AD may be the safe operating model. If most users' devices and apps are cloud-first but a few dependencies remain, the goal is reduction. Shrink the scope, harden what remains, and remove unnecessary trust paths. Full decommissioning comes last after identity, policy, authentication, devices, applications, and support processes are proven independent. Let readiness evidence decide the target state, not optimism, pressure, or arbitrary deadlines. When full Active Directory retirement is not yet realistic, reduce risk by shrinking the domain controller footprint in phases. First, understand authentication and DNS traffic, including site dependencies and legacy clients. Before choosing demotion candidates, validate replication, FSMO role ownership, backups, and DNS registration. Consolidate remaining controllers around the workloads and networks that still need them. After each removal, monitor logons, name resolution, replication health, and application behavior. Finally, harden what remains with baselines, restricted administration, alerting, tested recovery, and clear documentation, so optimization does not become an outage. As Active Directory becomes less central, the operating model should move with it. Entra ID becomes the control plane for identity lifecycle decisions. Who gets created, what changes when they move roles, and what is removed when they leave. HR-driven provisioning and workflows reduce manual steps. Dynamic groups and attribute rules keep access aligned to current user attributes. Governance controls such as access reviews, entitlement management, and privileged identity management add recurring validation and just-in-time administration. The goal is clear ownership, automated decisions, and fewer standing permissions across users, groups, applications, and roles. Reducing AD dependency is not a one-time migration task. It becomes sustainable only when operations change. Repetitive work should move into automation using tools such as Graph PowerShell, Microsoft Graph, Logic Apps, Azure Automation, or lifecycle workflows. Every process needs clear ownership, standard procedures, exception handling, and rollback guidance. Progress also needs to be measurable. Track signals such as domain logons, LDAP binds, NTLM usage, GPO count, and remaining domain joined devices. Finally, create a recurring review cycle, so new projects do not quietly rebuild the same AD dependencies you just removed. Post-migration optimization is where technical success becomes operating maturity. Start with evidence from apps, devices, policies, accounts, files, and sign-in data. Then decide intentionally what to keep, reduce, or decommission safely. Cloud-first operations require governance, automation, monitoring, lifecycle control, and documentation. In the capstone, you'll apply this full journey to design and validate an end-to-end migration strategy.